Right, so let's just get right into it. This whole crazy 2026 World Cup qualifying thing. It's December 2024. Shit's already hit the fan, Qualification's going on, and it's a total clusterfuck with 48 teams all trying to get a piece of the pie.
Yeah.
We're here to break it all down for you. Like, you wanted a deep dive, right? Well, strap in, motherfuckers.
Yeah, it's a whole different game now with this new format. Way more countries than ever before, all desperate to prove they belong.
Yeah.
On the biggest stage in the world, FIFA just threw a grenade into the whole qualification system, and we're here to sort through all the pieces. We're talking 6 different confederations: AFC, CCAF, CONCACAF, CONMEBOL,
Oh, my God.
OFC, and UEFA, all with their own crazy qualifiers. It's a lot to keep track of.
Okay, so more teams, more chaos.
Definitely.
More fucking headaches trying to figure out who's actually going to make it to the big show. Let's start with Asia, the AFC. 8 direct spots and 1 intercontinental playoff spot. That's a pretty sweet deal.
Yeah, not bad. But it's a 5-round marathon to get there. Right now, they're in the 3rd round. 18 teams battling it out in 3 groups. Iran and Japan are already through to the 4th round.
Nice.
But some big names are sweating it out.
Like who? Give us the goods.
Well, Saudi Arabia, for one. They're in a real dogfight in Group C, tied with Indonesia and Bahrain. 2 match days left, so it's going to be a nail-biter. This just shows you that even the big dogs can't afford to fuck around in this format.
Damn. Those Saudi princes must be shitting bricks right now. Okay, so Asia is a mess. What about Africa? CAF. 9 direct spots. That's a pretty good chunk of the 48, right?
It is, but it's a bloodbath over there. 53 teams all fighting for those 9 spots. They're still in the 1st round with 9 groups of 6. Winner of each group goes straight to the World Cup. No second chances, no playoffs, just a straight shot to glory.
Damn, talk about high stakes.
Yeah.
So who's looking good so far?
Well, you got Egypt, Sudan, Ivory Coast, Tunisia, all undefeated after 4 matches. Morocco's also looking pretty strong,
Okay.
but there's a long way to go.
Yeah, long way to go. It's a marathon, not a sprint. A lot can change between now and when the dust settles. All right, enough about Africa for now. Let's talk about our neck of the woods, CONCACAF. U.S., Canada, Mexico, they're already in, which is pretty damn convenient.
Yeah, the host always gets an automatic bid.
But what about the other CONCACAF teams fighting for those 3 direct spots and 2 intercontinental playoff spots? What's going on there?
They're in the 2nd round right now. 30 teams split into 6 groups of 5. Guatemala and Jamaica are neck and neck in Group E. Haiti is making some noise in Group C. And then you got some weird shit going down, like Cuba getting a forfeit win against the Cayman Islands.
A forfeit? What the hell happened there? Did somebody eat some bad conch fritters or something?
Apparently, the Cayman Islands just couldn't field a team for the match. Logistics, injuries, who knows. It just goes to show you anything can happen in these qualifiers.
Yeah, that's some fucked up shit. World Cup dreams crushed by a no-show. Okay, so CONCACAF is always good for a few surprises. What about South America? CONMEBOL. Those guys are usually pretty predictable, right?
You'd think so, with the usual suspects like Brazil and Argentina always at the top.
Right.
But even CONMEBOL has its drama. It's a single group of 10 teams, all playing each other home and away. We're 12 matches in, and things are starting to heat up.
So spill the tea. Who's looking good? Who's sweating?
Argentina's top dog right now, 25 points, but Uruguay's right on their heels with 20. Then you got Ecuador, Colombia, Brazil, all right in the mix. They're all fighting for those 6 direct spots and the 1 intercontinental playoff spot. It's going to be tight, right down to the wire.
Sounds like anyone's game. What about the poor bastards down in Oceania?
Yeah.
The OFC. They only get 1 guaranteed spot now. Seems kind of unfair, doesn't it?
It's a step up from what they had before, which was nothing. 0 guaranteed spots. Now they at least have a fighting chance. They can show up on the big stage, maybe pull off a miracle.
Yeah, underdog story, right.
They also have a shot at a 2nd spot through the Intercontinental Playoff, so it's not all bad. They're actually about to kick off their 3rd and final round of qualifying, a 4-team knockout round in March 2025.
Knockout round, huh? Talk about pressure. So who are the contenders down under?
Usual suspects: New Zealand, Tahiti, New Caledonia, Fiji. They all made it through the earlier rounds. They're the big fish in a small pond down there.
Yeah.
Whether they can swim with the sharks in the World Cup is another question.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, so we've covered Asia, Africa, North and Central America, South America, and Oceania. That leaves us with Europe, UEFA. Those guys always have a ton of teams in the World Cup, right?
Yeah.
I mean, why wouldn't they?
They get a whopping 16 direct slots. No messing around with playoffs for the group winners. They just punch their tickets straight to the main event. But their qualification process is just getting started. The group stage draw happened last week. and the first matches kick off in March 2025.
Hold on. So the European teams are just chilling while everyone else is busting their asses. Sounds like a pretty sweet deal.
Well, they've been busy with the UEFA Nations League,
Right.
which actually feeds into the World Cup qualifying. The 4 best Nations League group winners who don't finish in the top 2 of their qualifying groups get a second chance in the playoffs.
Oh, okay.
It's a bit complicated, but it adds another layer to the European qualifiers.
Convoluted is putting it mildly. Sounds like UEFA trying to outsmart themselves as usual. But hey,
Yeah.
I guess that's what happens when you have so many strong teams fighting for a limited number of spots.
Exactly. And speaking of strong teams, let's look at some of the groups in Europe. Group A is shaping up to be a bloodbath.
Oh, yeah. Why is that? Who's in it?
Germany, Italy, Slovakia, Northern Ireland,
Oh, wow.
and Luxembourg. 2 former World Cup champions in the same group. That's going to be a slugfest.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Germany and Italy going head-to-head for a World Cup spot. Sign me up for that.
And that's just one group. We've got France and Croatia battling it out in Group D, Spain and the Netherlands in Group B,
Wow.
England and Serbia in Group K. It's going to be wild all across Europe.
I'm already getting hyped for these European qualifiers. Sounds like we're in for some epic matches come March 2025. But before we dive into that, let's talk about the Interconfederation playoffs. That's where things get really interesting.
Yeah, the playoffs. The last chance saloon for those who just missed out on direct qualification. 6 teams, 1 from each confederation except UEFA, plus an extra team from CONCACAF, since they're hosting. They all play in knockout matches to determine the final 2 World Cup spots.
So it's like a mini World Cup before the actual World Cup. That's pretty fucking cool.
And what's even cooler is that these playoffs are going to be held in 1 or more of the host countries, Canada, the US, or Mexico. It's a chance for them to test out their stadiums and infrastructure before the main event.
Okay, so it's a test run for the hosts and a last-ditch effort for the underdogs. Sounds like a recipe for some high-pressure do-or-die football.
You got it. The stakes are sky high, and every match is going to be a battle. But before we get too deep into the playoffs, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll unpack more of this 2026 World Cup qualification chaos. Stay tuned.
All right. So before the break, we were saying that the Interconfederation playoffs are kind of a last-chance saloon for the teams that just missed out on direct qualification.
Yeah, it's like the fucking Wild West out there.
Yeah.
All these desperate teams just fighting for their lives. But how do they even decide who plays who in those playoffs? It just seems kind of random.
It's based on which teams qualify from each confederation.
Yeah.
You know, like, for example, say the runner-up in the AFC's 5th round is Uzbekistan.
Sure.
They would then face off against, let's say, the second-best runner-up from CONCACAF.
So it's like a battle of the losers. Kind of sad, isn't it?
Not really. You know, it's a chance for redemption.
Okay.
A shot at glory for those who came up short in their own confederations. These playoffs are going to be intense, with every team giving it everything they got to make it to the World Cup.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Second chance to prove themselves right on the world stage. But let's be real. It's got to be a huge letdown to come so close and then have to go through another grueling playoff. Oh, yeah. There's no doubt about that. It's the beauty of the World Cup.
Yeah.
Full of heartbreak and triumph. It's about the journey, the drama, the passion.
All right, enough with the sentimental bullshit.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the players who are actually making this whole qualification thing worth watching.
Okay.
Who are the stars of the show?
All right. Well, in Asia, you got Son Heung-min leading the charge for South Korea.
Oh, yeah.
Guy's a goal-scoring machine. And then there's Almaz Ali, the Qatari striker who's currently the top scorer in the whole qualification process.
Qatar, huh? Didn't see that coming. They're usually known more for their oil money than their football skills.
Yeah.
Right.
They're definitely a team to watch, though. And over in Africa, you got Mohamed Salah doing what he does best, embarrassing defenders for Egypt. The guy's a magician on the pitch.
Salah's a beast, no doubt about it. But what about South America? Does Messi still got it? Isn't he like 100 years old by now?
Messi might be getting up there in years, but he's still the heart and soul of that Argentinian team. He's pulling the strings, dictating the play, and scoring some beautiful goals along the way.
Classic Messi. He's like a fine wine, gets better with age.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got our fair share of goal scorers. What about some defensive studs? Anyone shutting down offenses and making life miserable for the attackers?
Plenty of defensive heroes out there. Kalidou Koulibaly. He's a rock at the back for Senegal. Strong, athletic, reads the game like a book. And then you got Virgil van Dijk, marshaling the Dutch defense. A towering presence, you know, a true leader on the pitch.
Sounds like we're in for some exciting football in 2026. Solid defenders, Clinical finishers.
Oh,
It's going to
yeah.
be a battle of titans.
Yeah, the talent pool is deeper than ever before, and the competition is fierce.
Speaking of competition, let's
Yeah.
get back to that 2026 World Cup format.
Okay.
Is it the same old shit, or are they shaking things up?
Oh, they're definitely shaking things up.
Okay.
Remember, this is the first World Cup with 48 teams. So FIFA had to come up with a new format. And let me tell you, it's a bit of a head scratcher.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Spill the beans. What's this new format all about?
So instead of the usual 32 teams divided into 8 groups of 4, we're going to have 16 groups of 3.
Okay.
The top 2 teams from each group advance to a knockout stage of 32.
Wait, so they're basically doubling the size of the tournament? That's a lot of fucking football.
It is, and there's been a lot of debate about whether this is a good idea or not.
Yeah, I can imagine. What are the pros and cons of this whole 48 team thing?
Okay, well, on the plus side, more teams means more countries get to experience the World Cup, which is great for the global game, right? It also means more matches for the fans to enjoy.
More football's never a bad thing.
Right.
Right.
Unless it's, a total snooze fest.
Sure.
But there are some downsides as well. Critics say that expanding the tournament will just dilute the quality of play.
Okay.
Some of the weaker teams will just get hammered by the big boys, and the matches will be less competitive.
Yeah, nobody wants to see a bunch of blowouts. But then again, there's always the chance for an upset, right?
Yeah.
That's what makes the World Cup so fun to watch.
Exactly. And let's not forget that the World Cup is about more than just, the quality of play. It's a cultural event, a chance for people from all over the world to come together and celebrate their love of the game.
Okay, you're starting to sound like a FIFA spokesperson. But I get your point.
Right,
It's
you're
not
right.
just about the football. It's about the experience.
Exactly. But speaking of experience, let's talk about the logistical nightmare of hosting a 48-team tournament across 3 countries. It's a whole other can of worms.
3 countries. Talk about a logistical clusterfuck. How the hell are they going to pull that off?
It's a massive undertaking. They're going to need to coordinate travel schedules, make sure the stadiums are up to par, manage fan expectations. I mean, it's a huge test for FIFA and for the host nations.
Sounds like a recipe for disaster. But hey, maybe they'll surprise us.
Let's hope so. But even if everything goes smoothly, there's still the question of whether this format will actually benefit the game in the long run.
What do you mean?
Well, some people say that expanding the World Cup will actually make it harder for smaller nations to develop their football programs.
How so? I would think more spots would give them more opportunities to compete.
Think about it. If there are more spots available, there's less incentive for teams to push themselves to improve.
Okay.
They might just be content with scraping by and making it to the World Cup rather than striving for excellence.
Interesting point. So basically, it could create a culture of mediocrity.
That's the worry. But on the other hand, you could also say that giving more teams a taste of the World Cup will inspire them to invest more in their football infrastructure.
Sure.
Their development programs.
Yeah, maybe it'll light a fire under their asses. I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Exactly. It's a grand experiment, and we're all along for the ride. But we've covered a lot of ground here. From the details of the qualification process
Yeah.
to the broader implications of this 48-team World Cup. Any final thoughts before we wrap things up?
Yeah, actually.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned the Interconfederation playoffs being a sneak peek at how this whole new format might play out.
Wait.
Can you just elaborate on that a bit? What should we be looking for in those playoffs?
Yeah, well, these playoffs are kind of a test run for FIFA. They're going to be watching closely to see how the matches go, how the fans react to it all, whether this whole 48-team thing is actually going to work. One thing to look out for is the quality of play. Will these playoff matches even be competitive?
Right.
Or will we just see a bunch of blowouts?
Yeah, that's a good point. Nobody wants to watch a bunch of mismatched teams getting slaughtered out there. But I'm also kind of curious about how the different playing styles from the different confederations will clash. You've got the South American flair, the European grit, African athleticism. It'll be interesting to see who adapts best to this new format.
Oh, for sure. And then you got the whole logistical side of things. Remember, these playoffs are being held in North America.
Right.
So it'll be a good test run for the 2026 World Cup in terms of travel, stadiums, all that. If things go well, it'll be a good sign for the main event. But if it's a shit show, well, FIFA's going to have some serious headaches to deal with.
So basically, these playoffs are like a little microcosm of the 2026 World Cup, right?
Yeah.
A chance to see what works, what doesn't, before the whole world's watching. It sounds like must-see TV to me.
It is. And don't forget about the human element, These playoffs are going to be full of drama, players and teams fighting for their World Cup dreams.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be a roller coaster of emotions, and you can bet your ass there will be some incredible stories that come out of these matches.
All right. So we've covered a lot today. We talked about the insane qualification process,
Yeah.
this new 48-team format, the star players, and the big role of the Interconfederation playoffs. Any final thoughts for our listeners before we wrap things up?
Just this. Buckle up, Buttercup, because the road to the 2026 World Cup is going to be wild. There will be upsets, there will be heartbreak, and there will be moments of pure brilliance. It's going to be a global spectacle unlike anything we've seen before, and you don't want to miss a minute of it.
Damn straight. So there you have it, folks, a deep dive into the 2026 World Cup qualification chaos. Hope you enjoyed the ride. Now go grab a beer, tune in to some matches, and get ready for the biggest sporting event on the planet. We'll see you in 2026.